Hello, Zambia, and welcome to the semi-finals of the Smart Voices Debate Season 2, sponsored by Zambia Revenue Authority. My name is Chanzi Sikaze, and I'll be your host for this season. Today's motion we have: this House believes that custom agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishment. And I repeat, this House believes that custom agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishment. Proposing to this motion is Mukamambo II, and opposing to the motion is St. Ambrose. I will now read the rules of this debate. Rule number 1. No religious references, quotations, or concepts will be allowed. Number 2. Physical evidence is allowed, which includes demonstrations of evidence, and shall be handed over to the adjudicator, handwritten, printed, or published materials. The following items are prohibited in the debate room: mobile phones, particularly smartphones, tablets, MPCs, cameras, and anything that can store data electronically. All phones must be on silent. The sequence of the debate shall be as follows. The first speakers on each team present their arguments for 4 minutes, no interjections. The second and third speakers will speak for 3 minutes. Interjections will be allowed. The speaker summarizing will be allowed 4 minutes, no interjections. Interjections will be allowed after the first 1 minute of a speaker taking the floor. Each interjection will be done within a minute. The moderator will enforce the rules allowing or rejecting interjections or calls for support. The timekeeper will pause the speaker's time when there's an interjection. A team can propose to support the speaker after an interjection. Let's get right into it. I'll now call upon the first speaker from the proposing side.
Bribe, scribe, vibe, describe. When customs officers cheat, people lose trust. We must punish them strongly so that the law is fair and just. But before I go any further, allow me to state that all protocol be highly and deeply observed.
Observed.
Bouncing back to the motion which states as I quote, this House believes that customs agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishment. End of quotation. As the first speaker, or rather the icebreaker, it is my duty to define the following key terms. Customs, the duties charged by the government on imported goods. Participate, to take part in an activity or event. Smuggling, move goods illegally into or out of a country. Stiffer, make or become stronger. With reference from the Oxford English Dictionary, may the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Heading on to my staple analysis, which goes as follows. As the first speaker, I'll talk about breach of public trust. Higher responsibility requires higher accountability and deterrence against criminal recruitment. Then my second speaker will talk about threat to national and human security, public confidence collapse, and corruption spreads without strong penalties. Then my third speaker will talk about penalties are not proportionate to damage done, harsh penalties protect honest officers, and insider access enables large criminal operations. Then my summarizer will summarize, analyze, otherwise you won't understand. May the staple analysis please be passed on to the judges. Today, we defend integrity at our borders, protecting our people and our resources. As ZRA echoes,
my tax, your tax, our destiny.
This motto reminds us that when customs officers betray the law, they betray all of us, the taxpayers, the honest citizens, and the future of our nation. Which leads me to my first point, which is breach of public trust. Customs officers are entrusted with protecting our borders and their resources. When they engage in smuggling themselves, it destroys trust. As we all know, a strong institution is built on trust. And once that trust is broken, it's very hard and extremely difficult to mend. To demonstrate, here is clear water, representing a clear and clean system and the trust which the people have put in the customs agency. But yet, if we've got corrupt customs officers who engage in smuggling, at the end of the day, the whole agency will be labeled as corrupt. In alignment to SDG number 16, which talks about peace, justice, and strong institutions, we do stand on the ground to say that stiffer punishment should be imposed on all corrupt officers. May the good Samaritan please do as wise. Heading on to my next point, which reads, high responsibility requires high accountability. Officers have special authority and access to information that civilians don't. So, which means more access means when betrayal leads to stiffer punishment. In alignment to SDG number 16, which talks about strengthening rule of law and reducing corruption. At the end of the day, if customs agents have been placed with a high responsibility, they are supposed to be people who are accountable with whatsoever action they do, knowing that the people have put all their trust, knowing that there are people who are responsible. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise.
As wise.
Going on to my next point, which is deterrence against criminal recruitment. Deterrence means giving a punishment so that would-be offenders should not take part in illegal activities. Criminal networks target corrupt insider because one officer can smuggle large amounts due to the access of information that they carry compared to civilians. So this shows that if they've got higher access, which means when they betray the nation, they need stiffer punishment. In alignment to SDG number 16, which talks about reduces organized crime. To strengthen my point, may the Good Samaritan please do as wise.
As wise.
To stand on a strong ground, we give credit where credit is due. Due to the things which are happening in the agency, ZRA itself decided to recruit 30 seconds, Sama, please.
30 seconds allowed.
Due to all this which is happening in the customs agency, ZRA itself decided to recruit 7 expert investigations to fight internal corruption, knowing that we're standing on a firm ground with the help of experts. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise.
As wise.
Holding corrupt officers accountable strengthens trust, protects our borders, and ensures that every citizen's contribution counts, as ZRA echoes,
My tax, your tax, our destiny.
bringing to life ZRA's call
Let's build a better Zambia.
with a strong stand saying that all those who trade duty for dollars should face stiffer punishment. I rest my case.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for truly living up to your title as the icebreaker. I will now call upon the first speaker from the opposing side.
Struggles and temptations, walls and barriers, limits and obstacles, all in the mind to drive one from the true way. For Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "What lies behind us or what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. And what lies within me is the might and profoundness of the mighty intellectual I am. I, Emmanuel Chunga, stand here strong and firm as the icebreaker opposing to the motion which states, and I quote, customs agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishment." End of quotation. Preliminary members of the auditorium, before I go any further, allow me to accede the presence of the authorities that make this debate session a success. The adjudicators to my bow, the moderator to my salute, the timekeeper to my say, keep time ticking for a stitch in time, saves 9, and to the members of the auditorium, witness my greatness and power as I incentivize this progressive motion. In simplicity, all protocol is held as prestige. In order to benevolently perform my duties as an icebreaker, allow me to define the key terms of this motion. A customs agent is a licensed professional who facilitates the import and export of goods by managing customs clearance on behalf of their clients. Smuggling is the illegal act of moving goods or people across a border or boundary to avoid laws, regulations, or taxes. May Good Samaritan pass this on to the judges for further clarification. Esteemed adjudicators and distinguished members of the auditorium, today the proposition argues that customs agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishment. On the surface, this sounds alarming. Who wouldn't want to punish corruption? But when you look deeper, we realize that these harsher penalties are a distraction from the real issue, and they may even worsen the problem. I stand firmly to oppose to this motion. Firstly, the problem is not the severity of punishment, it is the certainty of punishment. Corruption thrives, not because penalties are too light, but because offenders believe they won't get caught. In many countries, customs agents who smuggle already face long imprisonment, loss of employment, heavy fines, and permanent criminal records. To show that I speak from within and not from without, here's a piece of evidence to back up my point. May Good Samaritan pass this on to the judges for further clarification. Increasing the penalty does not increase the likelihood of detection. If the system is weak, investigators are under-resourced, and oversight is minimal, then a harsher punishment only looks good on paper. Deterrence comes from consistent enforcement, not bigger sentences. Harsher punishment ignores the root causes of corruption. Smuggling by customs agents often arises from systemic issues such as low salaries, minimal training, high living costs, poor working conditions, lack of supervision, and pressure from criminal networks. If you do not address these root causes of corruption, you are simply treating symptoms. Worse, by imposing harsher penalties, you create a more stressed, fearful, and resentful workforce, one more prone to corruption, not less. Rather than stifling punishment, we should be focusing on improving salaries, oversight, and professional standards. With these points, I rest my case.
Thank you so much, Mr. First Speaker, for truly breaking down the motion for us. I will now call upon the second speaker from the proposing side.
Deal with you. When customs agents steal, people feel unsafe. Punishments show that crimes will not be allowed in any place. But before I go any further, allow me to write on protocol set by my Prime Minister according to order of seniority. In short, I simply say, may all protocol be highly and deeply observed.
Observe.
Bouncing back to my main motion, which states as I quote, this House believes that customs agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishment. End of quotation. I'll strongly be proposing to the above motion with the following points. My first one being threats to national and human security. Members of this House, smuggled goods that are brought into our country normally contain harmful substances to our environment like drugs and firearms that aren't licensed. Are you telling me that you would want to live in a country and community where violence is taking place because of the same firearms that were smuggled into our country? No. Here with me is a piece of evidence showing Kenyan customs officers who smuggled goods into their country and were later used for violent activities, and the 19-year-old boy was killed in these activities. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Moving on to my second point, which states public confidence collapses. Members of this House, looking at our current goal right now, which is Vision 2030, with reference to SDG number 16, are you telling me that if the country men and women refuse to cooperate with the government due to them failing to settle out these disputes, are you sure that we're going to head towards our goal? Members of this House, here's a piece of evidence showing people at the Chirindu border protesting for them to remove the corrupt customs agents who work there. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Moving on to my next point, which states corruption spreads without strong penalties. Members of this House, are you telling me that instead of us breaking the chain rather than weakening it, aren't we going to get rid of smugglers in a short period of time? Here's a piece of evidence to strengthen my point. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Members of this House, in as much as any problem has a root cause, here with me, you can see a problem tree and a solutions tree. And as you can see from here, the root cause of all these negative effects was inside the smuggling, which led to all these negative effects. For us to deal with smuggling and corruption, the government can easily start from the root cause and impose stronger penalties and stiffening the punishments for people who practice corruption and smuggling. And for them, after they do that, we will later have a clean, trustworthy customs system and reduce insider smuggling, which will later lead to all these positive effects, as you can see here. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. With these few but convincing points, I rest my case, reminding everyone, as ZRA says,
Know your tax.
I submit.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for those quotations. I will now call upon the second speaker from the opposing side.
Justice is to be saved, laws are to be followed, regulations are to be observed, but this debate is to be overthrown. Good morning, members of the auditorium. My name is Upecho Lamwawa, and I'm going to oppose to the motion that states, and I quote, customs agents who participate in corruption should face stiffer punishments, end of quotation. But before I go any further, allow me to acknowledge the presence of the following. The judges, I bow. The chairperson, I salute. And to the timekeeper, keep time ticking because time wasted is never recovered. And to my lovely audience, sit back, relax, and listen as I proclaim and eradicate this motion. In simplicity, I say, all protocol is highly observed. Members of the auditorium, allow me to break down my first point. The risk of scapegoating individuals instead of fixing institutions. Members of the House, this motion makes or encourages governments to blame individuals instead of fixing the institutions. However, the real failures are often institutional. Weak internal audits, corrupt supervisors, lack of rotational staff, and political interference. Members of the House, this leads me to my second point. Over the severe punishments, discourage whistleblowing and reporting. If officers face extremely harsh consequences, colleagues may hesitate filing reports for first-time or minor offences. Supervisors may think twice about reporting cases that can lead someone to imprisonment for more than decades. This undermines internal accountability. A more balanced system, one with proportionate penalties and rehabilitation, encourages early reporting and quicker intervention. Members of the House, fellow intellects of this symposium, this leads me to my third point, principle of proportionality.
Point of interjection.
Point of interjection allowed.
Affiliates of this session and esteemed guests, earlier on the precurrent speaker talked about how civilians and authorities gain the same punishment on how their crimes are caused. But here with me is a point that clearly has evidence that the crime that is done by authorities is stiffer than the crime that is done by the civilians, because they know each loophole that is in their institution. So please clarify your point.
Members of the House, don't you think that fixing the whole system, fixing the masterminds, the whole chain of corruption, don't you think it would work better than penalizing the person who's at the end of the chain?
Point of defense.
Point of defense allowed.
Affiliates of this session, it seems that the precariat speaker does not know what they are talking about, because the point they just stated supports us. Of course, we have to deal with the whole institution, because these people are coming from the offices. Affiliates of this session, do you think that a civilian who does not know the loopholes is going to bring corruption into the institution? So please, clarify your point, precariat speaker.
Point of defense.
Point of defense allowed.
Customs agents should be held to higher standards through accountability and monitoring, not disproportionate sentencing. High standards don't automatically mean harsher jail time.
May the current speaker continue speaking.
Members of the House, this undermines internal accountability. A more balanced system, one with proportionate penalties and rehabilitation, encourages early reporting and quicker intervention. Members of the House, indeed, fellow intellectuals of this symposium, this leads me to my third point. Punishment should be proportional to the offense and not the offender's occupation. If a civilian and a customs agent commit the same smuggling-related offense, it would be unjust to impose significantly a harsher punishment based on the job status unless there is clear statutory justification. Members of the House, my last point, the risk of double punishment. When punishments are stiffer, custom officers already face double punishment, such include loss of employment, lack of pension benefits, administrative junctions. In conclusion, members of the House, honorable judges, the proposition wants us to believe that harsher punishments is the answer to customs corruption, but punishments alone cannot repair broken institutions. They cannot fix low wages, it cannot eliminate weak oversight, and it cannot solve the deep systematic issues and drive smuggling at borders. With these points, I rest my case.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for that articulation. I will now call upon the third speaker from the proposing side.
Smuggle, juggle, struggle, snuggle. When customs officers smuggle, crime grows fast. We need stiffer punishments to stop them and to make peace last. But before I go any further, allow me to say that all protocol is highly and deeply observed. I stand here proposing to a motion which states, as I quote, "This House believes that custom agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishment." End of quotation. And I strongly propose due to the following reasons. First and foremost, insider access enables large criminal operations. Members of the House, officers can smuggle more than civilians, given that they have more access to illegal drugs because they're the ones working at the borders, as shown in this chart here. As you can see, a customs officer acts as a key, and the key unlocks many doors. But if that customs officer is corrupt, it opens doors to many illegal activities such as manipulating databases and facilitating tax evasion. And those further lead to negative effects such as tax evasion, evidence lost, slow development, and loss of revenue. Here with me, may the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Here with me is evidence showing that ZRA had to recover 22 million in tax evasion in 2023. Members of this House, that's just the same as making a road. And that was caused by who? A corrupt customs officer. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Moving on to my next point, which is penalties are not proportionate to damage done. In as much as officers found guilty of such activities are punished, the fines that they are made to pay or the sentences that they face are not equal to the damage that's caused to the environment or the society, because you find situations whereby one customs officer can smuggle in over 50 pounds of an illegal substance, and yes, they're just suspended for 14 days. And in that 14 days, they can just come back and re-strategize, or you find they're made to pay small fines, and which that money comes from the goods that they smuggled, because they make money from smuggling goods. Here with me is evidence showing that a former Border Patrol agent spent 78 months in prison for taking bribes for drug traffickers, which just shows that the things that they did and the and the penalties that are given are not equal for the fact that the goods that were smuggled in were a lot, but the sentence that they faced was small. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Moving on to my next point, which is harsher penalties protect honest officers and whistleblowers. When someone found wanting or guilty of such things is given a harsher punishment, even those officers who are not yet doing that or are found like in circumstances where they want to join will know that when they take part in such an activity, the penalties that are given are very hard, and encourages those that report wrongdoing to continue, because they know that when they report, the punishments given are according. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise.
Point of interjection.
Point of interjection denied. The current speaker is in her last 30 seconds of speaking.
Corruption at the roots leads to massive harm. Strong penalties stop insider crimes, protect honest officers, and safeguard our communities and environment. That is why harsher punishment is essential. With these few points, I rest my case, leaving you with a message that says,
Know your tax.
because when insiders enable massive smuggling, there is still revenue meant for development. I submit.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for educating us on this matter. I will now call upon the third speaker from the opposing side.
I came, I saw, and I'm here to conquer. As Winston Churchill once said, discussion is an exchange of knowledge, arguments are an exchange of ignorance. But the aim of an argument or discussion should not be victory, but progress. Good morning, Honorable Chair, esteemed judges, fellow debaters, and the profound members of this auditorium. I stand here as the profound intellectual I am, in my role as third speaker from the mighty St. Ambrose Boys Technical Secondary School. I am Kan Kapul, not only tackle, oppose, or repudiate the motion that states and I quote, customs agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishment. End of quotation. But I'm here to educate you, detriment you, and dispose of this misunderstanding of today's motion. In all simplicity, I say protocol is highly observed. Arguments suggesting that customs agents involved in smuggling should not face stiff punishment, generally centered on systemic issues within customs administration and border socio-economic factors. These arguments do not typically claim the agents should be exempt from punishment entirely, but rather advocate for a balanced, graduated, and equitable penalty system that considers mitigating factors. Members of the jury, low salaries and income pressure for customs officials are sometimes poorly compensative relative to the high sums of money involved in illicit trade. My fellow intellectuals, the significant financial temptation, especially when compared to the annual salaries, might be considered a mitigating circumstance in certain contexts. May good sometime, please person judges for further clarification.
Point of interjection.
Point of interjection allowed.
Affiliates of this session, the precurrent speaker talks about salaries. Affiliates of this session, do you believe, this question is posed to you, do you believe that the whole country should suffer just because one person does not have adequate salaries? Sorry.
Point of defense.
Point of defense allowed.
Members of the House, don't you think that if a customs agent is not getting enough, don't you think that would tempt him more and more to steal?
1, 2, 3. Point of rebuttal.
Point of rebuttal allowed.
Affiliates of this session, that would tempt them. The precurrent speakers panel said that that would tempt them to steal. But affiliates of this session, don't we believe that our authorities and our institutions should be accountable and transparent? Affiliates of this session, if our precurrent speakers panelists are saying this, then where is Zambia going? If people want to steal, then where is Zambia going? Clarify your point.
May the current speaker continue speaking.
Furthermore, systemic corruption and weak controls for customs officials creates a lack of robust internal control systems, poor accountability, and a general atmosphere where high-ranking officials demand special treatment, which could create a pervasive culture of corruption. Members of the jury, in such environments, individual officers might be seen as products of a broken system rather than solely responsible actors. May good Samaritan please pass on the judges for further clarification. In addition, members of the jury, graduated penalty systems situated by certain countries are border checks. My fellow intellectuals, some penalty regimes advocate for a graduated system where the severity of the penalty is proportional to the gravity of the offense, the amount of revenue lost, and the compliance history of the offender. This might mean that minor offenses by agents who have a clean record should not result in the immediate stiffest available punishments. May good Samaritan please pass on the judges for further clarification. Lastly, members of the jury, a well-designed penalty regime should be graduated, meaning penalties increase with the severity or repetition of the offense and applied consistently and uniformly across all offenders. Members of the jury, this approach ensures equity, and some arguments might suggest that singling out the customs agents for stiffer punishment beyond a generally high standard for official corruption could violate this principle of uniform application. May good Samaritan please pass on the judges for further clarification. In conclusion, profound judges, honorable moderator, ladies and gentlemen, I proudly aim a proclamation in the wise words of John Frederick Kennedy: change the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. Members of the Triumph, after my proclamation, I'm sure I can't even fathom to utter the words that custom agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishment. For I believe for this to be a sheer misunderstanding for custom agents have certainty to believe in the true value of a custom agent. I raise my case.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving us the facts. I will now call upon the second last speaker of this debate, the summarizer from the proposing side.
Fail, will, trail, hill. When custom officers fail, the land and rivers suffer. But before I go any further, allow me to state that all protocol is highly and deeply observed. Affiliates of this session, back to my main motion which states as I quote, this House believes that custom agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishments, end of quotation. Affiliates of this session, as a summarizer, it is my duty to summarize, analyze, otherwise you not understand. But before I go any further, allow me to give the following rebuttals. The first speaker from the opposing delegation stated certainty. Affiliates of this session, it is not about certainty that the punishments should be stiffer, but affiliates of this session, it is about our conscience. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Moving on to the next thing, their third speaker talked about institutions. One punishment can't fix a whole broken institutions. Then affiliates of this session, what do you pose we do? We let them be? Affiliates of this session, here with me is evidence that clearly shows a man that was jailed for 50 years. Affiliates of this session, if you were jailed for 50 years, tell me, would you repeat the same mistake? Most definitely not. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise.
As wise.
Moving on to my first point, which states, as I quote, law detection was require higher consequences, end of quotation, which refers to SCG number 16. Law detection rates require higher consequences. Law detection is hard to detect. Affiliates of this session, stronger penalties deter insiders from taking risks even when they know that detection is low. Let me show you. My point is very simple. Here with me symbolizes a clean system. Affiliates of this session, this clean system will only let the things that are supposed to enter the country enter. However, we have here a broken system that most definitely will let even illegal systems enter that have been prohibited by the country. As you can see here, affiliates of this session, everything has passed. The mealie meal, the chunks, and the macaroni. The macaroni and the mealie meal and the chunks symbolize good and the prohibited. Affiliates of this session, if these people continue to let prohibited things enter our country, then where is our country going? Moving on to my second point, which states protecting the sovereignty and rule of law of the country. Affiliates of this session, corrupt officers weaken national borders, undermine governance, and threaten sovereignty. Strong penalties will maintain the law and the order of the country. Here with me is evidence that clearly shows that an entire law enforcement is diminished because what? One corrupt officer made a mistake. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Heading on to my next point, which talks about public confidence collapses and weakens transparency. Affiliates of this session, I pose this question to you. Would you want to live in a country that has weak accountability and weak transparency? Most definitely not. Then where are we going as a country? We are supposed to develop ourselves. Moving on to my next point, which states breaks public trust. Affiliates of this session, most definitely for an institution to have a strong foundation, it has to have the trust of its people. But affiliates of this session, where is our country going if the people and the authorities do not have trust in each other? May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Heading on to my next point, which states penalties are not proportionate to damage done. Affiliates of this session, the opposing delegation stated that penalties are proportionate to the damage done. But affiliates of this session, have we ever looked at environmental damage costs? Here with me, I have evidence that clearly shows monkeys that were trafficked, affiliates of this session. This shows law detection on borders. If these 44 males and 18 female monkeys were trafficked, affiliates of this session, how many more monkeys are we losing as Zambians? May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. Moving on to my last point, which states deterrence against criminal recruitment. Affiliates of this session, criminal networks target corrupt insiders because they know the loopholes around their institutions. Stiffer punishments will make recruitment riskier and reduce organized crime. May the Good Samaritan please do as wise. "30 seconds to summer.
30 seconds allowed.
Affiliates of this session, strong penalties protect honest officers, safeguard our ecosystems, and preserve national sovereignty. Just as ZRA echoes,
My tax, your tax, our destiny.
Members of this auditorium, this is not just a slogan, it is a commitment. When we uphold accountability at every level, we protect our citizens, our resources, and the future of our nations. Just as ZRA calls,
let's build a better Zambia.
With a strong stand on stiffer punishments, I rest my case.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. What a demonstration. I will now call upon the summarizer from the opposing side.
The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools speak because they have to say something. Good morning, respected judges, worthy opponents, faculty members, the colorful audience, as I, Nathan Chisanga, will have to interprospectively oppose to the motion that states custom agents who participate in smuggling should face stiffer punishments. But before I go on any further, it would be so insolent of me not to acknowledge the presence of the following. To the judges, I bow. To the moderator, I salute. And to a timekeeper, I say, better 3 hours too soon than a minute too late. In short, all protocol is highly observed. Members of the auditorium, here's a careful nuanced look at why some might argue against giving stiffer punishments to custom officers involved in smuggling. I'll frame these reasons in a structured and logical way. According to Diggers News Ears to the Ground, deterrence already exists. Customs officers face legal and professional consequences like imprisonment, fines, and dismissals for smuggling. Some might argue that existing punishments are already significant, and increasing them may not substantially improve deterrence if corruption is still systematic. Moving on, we have risk of unfair targeting. Stricter penalties could lead to false accusations against officers, especially politically charged or in high-pressure situations. Officers might be punished harshly for minor errors, undermining justice. Members of the auditorium, complexity of smuggling networks. Smuggling often involves organized crime. A customs officer might be a low-level participant under coercion or threats. Stiffer punishments may be unjust for those acting under duress without significantly disrupting criminal networks. May the Good Samaritan pass this on to the judges for further clarification. According to Zambia Daily Mail, in 2017, ZRA fired 15 officers on allegation of smuggling and corruption, and in mid-2025, they dismissed 14 officers for fraud practices. Dismissal is a disciplinary action, and by itself implies criminal prosecution or a not harsh punishment. May the Good Samaritan pass this on to the judges for further analysis. Members of the auditorium, equality before the law. Some argue that all citizens should be punished based on the crime itself and not their job title. Increasing penalties just because someone works in the customs office could be seen as unequal treatment before the law. And many legal systems already enhance penalties for abuse of public trust. Members of the auditorium, a customs officer named Boris Giovanni was convicted of passive bribery in a case involving organized smuggling. He was later pardoned by the president of Montenegro. After this pardon, he was reinstated in the customs administration. This is probably the closest documented case of a customs officer being pardoned for smuggling or corruption. May the Good Samaritan pass this on to the judges for further clarification. Not to forget, overly harsh penalties could discourage whistleblowing. Agents who participated under pressure or coercion may be less inclined to come forward if the penalties are extremely severe. Members of the auditorium, policies that balance accountability with incentives to report corruption may produce better outcomes. I quote, "The crime is already punishable under the existing law. Smuggling, bribery, and corruption already carry significant penalties. Adding extra punishment may be redundant or produce severe sentences. When in doubt whether to speak or to keep quiet, wise men give themselves the benefit of doubt and remain silent." With these few and well-elaborated points, I raise my case.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for ending this debate on a glorious note. We have come to the end of this brilliant battle of the brains, but stay tuned as the judges tally the results. Who do you think has won? St. Ambrose Boys or Mukamambo II?
The Constituency Development Fund is designed to empower local communities by funding projects that address their specific needs. The Zambia Revenue Authority plays a pivotal role in collecting these taxes, which are then used to fund various initiatives, including the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. Through CDF, taxes collected by the ZRA are used to build schools, ensuring that children have access to quality education close to their homes. Healthcare facilities are another priority, and CDF helps construct and equip clinics, health posts, mothers' shelters, and other essential medical services to underserved and remote areas around Zambia. Infrastructure projects such as roads and bridges are also funded through the CDF. These projects improve connectivity and boost economic activities in local communities. ZRA works tirelessly to ensure that taxes are collected efficiently and transparently. Thanks to the taxes collected by the ZRA, CDF is making a real difference in the lives of Zambians, fostering growth and development at the grassroots level across the nation. The Zambia Revenue Authority. My tax, your tax, our destiny.
The results are in. The judges have decided. Mukamambo II. Mukamambo II Girls Secondary School. It has been an interesting journey for you. You fought a very good fight. Whatever happens, be proud that you took part in this contest. Mukamambo II Girls Secondary School, you have gathered 977 points. A big hand for yourselves. St. Ambrose Boys Technical Secondary School. As you know, the final is calling. And this is how you have responded. You have endured a very tough contest. And the final has been waiting for you. And so you have gathered 900. So you have gathered 922 points, which means that Mukamambo, the second girls' secondary school, moves over to the finals. See you next week for another debate. Don't miss it, even for the world.